Hello, welcome in, welcome in. We're going to begin in a bit here. We'll give it a little bit more time, just so we can see if anyone else is interested in being here right from the start, but we haven't started yet, so no worries. I think I'll give it maybe 2 more minutes and then we can go ahead and continue. And just a reminder, this is for the FAFSA walkthrough, specifically for parent contributors. So we're just going to be covering the um, a little bit of what it will look like if you're filling out the FAFSA on the parent side, but information that is certainly relevant to both the student and the parent. So, mhm. So I'll go ahead and pull up the slide here.
I have to tell you, I feel pretty special. A whole session just for me.
There you go, VIP.
VIP all the way.
Okay, let me go. I'll go ahead and share the presentation here. Welcome in, welcome in. We're going to get started in just a minute here. I'll just go ahead and share. Hmm. Okay. So I think this will be a good point to start. So welcome in. This is specifically for the FAFSA walkthrough regarding parent contributors. I had previously said that, this information is going to be extremely important for both students and parents as well. So this, should be helpful to you in one way or another. But welcome in to FinAid Friday. My name is Joseph Toro. I'm a financial aid counselor here at SFSU. We also have another counselor in the chat, Danielle, who will be able to answer questions if you have any. So if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to put those in the chat, and then we should be able to get back to you in real time. Um, Let me go ahead and move forward here. So specifically, what is financial aid or the FAFSA? FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal and Student Aid. Um, Financial aid is specifically how you're going to be funding your education here when you go to college. So, federal aid uh, is what you would be getting through the FAFSA, but you're also put in the running for state aid as well as institutional funding. So, the FAFSA is that federal application, and we're also going to be talking about another option, which would be the CATA. But you're going to want to make sure that you do the FAFSA, which is open now. So October 1st, the 26-27 FAFSA is open, and you can go ahead and get started on that. And one of the most important things that we really want to, you know, have you understand is that the priority deadline is March 2nd. So the 26-27 FAFSA, it's open right now, but you're going to want to make sure that you do it before March 2nd of 2026. So after that point, you'll still be able to complete the application, but you won't have made the state aid priority deadline, so you'd only be eligible for federal aid for the most part. So please make sure that you do it before March 2nd. Um, it is also worth noting that a new FAFSA must be completed every year. So currently we're in the 25-26 academic year, which is affected by the 25-26 FAFSA. So you'll have to do a new one for the 26-27 year, which will extend all the way into summer of 2027. And then at the end of 2027, you'll have to apply for the next FAFSA, which will be the 27-28. And if you are interested in completing the CATA, We won't be doing a walkthrough of that here, but the process is pretty similar. The only one of the biggest differences is that it won't be using the federal tax retrieval tool, so you're going to have to be entering your tax information manually. So that's something to just keep in mind. Like I said, we just won't be doing the CATA here specifically, but the information that you get from this presentation should still be relevant for that. And we also have some resources here, which will be, I think extremely important if you do plan on doing the CATA. You're going to be filling that out on California Student Aid Commission's website. That's CSAC is the acronym for that. So it's just csac.ca.gov. And then our office specifically has, Dream resources that can assist you if you are having trouble with the CATA. So we have the Dream Resource Center at SFSU, and then also, our Office of Financial Aid has a specific section here on the website for the Dream Act. And either of these QR codes can take you to where you need to go. The one on the left is for the FAFSA. So, like I said, we are going to be covering the FAFSA in this presentation specifically. So, if you wanted to start that, you could go ahead and just scan that QR code on the left. The QR code on the right is for the CATA. So if, for whichever one you're going to be doing, you don't have to be doing it right now, but if you would like, you could get this later, which will take you directly to each of those applications or either of those. And for dependency status, it is important to note that the student who is filling out the application, um, if they're under the age of 24, they're most likely going to be considered dependent. So in some cases, if a student is over the age of 25, they may be considered independent in the eyes of the FAFSA. But like I said, in most cases, if the student who is filling out the FAFSA is under the age of 24, they are going to require a contributor. And so if you're, asking yourself if you are the contributor to the student's FAFSA, there is kind of a more streamlined way to determine that, which would be to use the parent wizard. So the student.gov website actually has kind of a little tool that you can use to determine if you are the student's contributor in this situation. So in the FAFSA walkthrough, we'll kind of show you what it looks like, to be a parent who is accepting the contributor invitation to a student's FAFSA, so that it's a little bit it might be a little bit confusing right now, but it'll make sense once you sort of see it in action. Once you see, okay, this is what it's like to be the contributor, and then you'll be able to walk through that portion. But once you've confirmed that you're the contributor, you will just have to be invited by the student to the application. And the only thing that they'll need from you is actually your email address. That's one of the things that they had changed this year. If you're a contributor, you'll just have to use your email address to get that invitation. And like I said, one of the changes that was mentioned is that it is easier to invite contributors this year around. Another change has to do with asset exclusion. So depending on like farm resources and then fish hatcheries and things like that, those are exclusions for this FAFSA that weren't present in previous years. There's also some Pell eligibility changes just in terms of the SAI that gets generated after the FAFSA is completed. The launch date is also earlier. I believe this was like historically maybe one of the earliest launch dates ever, October 1st for this FAFSA. And they're going to try and keep that consistent as well so that people can start the FAFSA earlier and then iron out any issues that they have later down the line. And then another change that they made had to do with small business considerations. So if the family owns a business of under 100 employees, it can be excluded from needing to be put down on the FAFSA application. So, if this is your first time completing the FAFSA, you will have to create a federal student aid ID. So the student will have to create an ID when they start the application, and then the contributor, pretty much anybody who's going to be putting their information into the FAFSA, is going to have to create an FSA ID. So with your account, specifically, you can fill out the FAFSA, and then you can work on any other form that's required to submit to federal student aid. So you will need your social security number, if applicable, and then also email address as well. And the application itself, maybe for the first time, if you're kind of taking it easy, usually it takes around 30 minutes. It can go much quicker. I mean, if you've done the FAFSA before and you have your IDs all ready to go and you kind of just start the application, you can get done in like less than 10 minutes. It can be really quick. And if the student is independent, it may go even faster, honestly. So it is important to also note that if you're, like as a contributor, if you would like to see your students' financial information once the application's been processed. So for example, if you want to, come to the financial aid office and then access the student's um, financial information, you will have to complete the authorization to release financial aid form. We call it a FERPA form, FERPA. That's just the like if you hear us say that, that's what that means. It's essentially a form that authorizes the release of the student's aid in terms of like the information about it. So we're just not legally allowed to share, private information like that with people who don't have explicit authorization. So it is super important that you visit the website and you fill out one of those forms and submit it to us, and then that's all that you would need. Or rather, the student has to do it. That's certainly the most important thing to know is that the student has to fill out the application and submit it, and then they have to put the contributor's name on there or anybody who they want to authorize to have access to that information. So keep that in mind. And what you're going to need to start these applications, you're going to be using tax information from 2 years ago. So the FAFSA is always going to be using tax information from 2 years, prior to that first date on there. So the 26-27 FAFSA is going to be using your 2024 taxes. So you're going to want to have your tax information from 2024 to complete that application. You'll also want records of child support received. This pertains to the year before. So in this case, it would actually be child support records in 2025, if you have any. And then also current balances of cash, savings, and checking accounts, as well as asset information and net worth of investments, businesses, and farms. Like I had said, there's some exclusions about that, but if it doesn't explicitly ask, then you shouldn't need to include it. You're also going to want to have a list of schools that you are applying to, and you can put up to 20 per FAFSA submission. So, you know, I haven't seen like students put more than 20, but if if in the event that you have over 20 schools you want to apply to, you can submit one application with 20 schools, and then what you can do is um, wait until it gets approved and then go back, make a correction, and then add more schools, like remove some schools and add more schools, and you can, send it out that way. But for the most part, I haven't seen students add over 20 schools. Our school code, the SFSU school code, is 001154. That is what you're going to be putting in if you would like to add our school. Otherwise, you could just search specifically for San Francisco State University. But if you're like afraid of messing it up, you don't want to type it in wrong, you can just use that school code. So, and then also to note, if the parents are married and filing jointly, only one parent will be required to be the contributor. So you'll have one that makes the FSA ID, and then they'll just be the person that provides that information on the FAFSA. And then again, the parent wizard can sort of help you in determining if you are the contributor in this scenario. So I think it's time that we start the application here. This is also, worth knowing because we're doing the parent side that this is assuming the student has already done their section. It is possible for the parent to start the application initially, but we always recommend that the student starts this application, the 26-27 application, and then after they're done with their part, they will be prompted to send an invite to a contributor. So we're gonna kind of be pretending to be that contributor and then experiencing what that is like. So this is the prototype here. And let me go ahead and go down to, so if you want to access this prototype, we could also send it to you just so you can get an idea of what it looks like to do the FAFSA. These first few are student simulations. So if you want to see what the student sees when they fill out the application, you can go ahead and do these as well. But like I said, we're going to be testing out the parent contributor side. So when you hit view scenario, um, you'll kind of get a fake email. This is what it looks like to receive an email from the Department of Education. So Raya Tran is one of the students. This is pretending to be their parent. So it says that Raya started their application, their FAFSA application, and they added you as a contributor. So if you are that contributor, you can go ahead and accept this invitation here. It is important to note that this is the code you will have to put while you're logged in. So this is like how this is kind of your authentication code. Um, the thing is, it autofills when I click this link, but it may not for you. So it is important that you would want to copy and paste this. But we can go ahead and just accept that. And this will take us to student.gov. You will have to create your FSA ID by this point. So you're only going to be able to log in if you have your FSA ID. So it already creates one for the parent in this situation. We don't know what the password is, but their name is usually this is the convention that they choose to do. First dot or last name, sorry, first name dot last name. So I can go ahead and log in here. This is that invitation code that I was talking about in the email. You would just copy and paste that here. It's already autofilled, so we don't need to worry about that. We can just hit submit. Once you do this point, this is where you're starting the application. So you're agreeing to send over your information, specifically the information in regards to your account, specifically that you made on FAFSA. And then you're also going to be providing more like sensitive tax information later down the line, which you will have to consent to if you plan on having the student receive financial aid. So there's an FAQ here if you want to know more. Specifically, we can go into some of these later, but I think it would be a good idea to just kind of continue on from here. A little bit more sort of FAQ stuff, just information about like what is the FAFSA, some of the things we talked about, what you're going to need, which is, tax returns from 2 years ago, records of child support, and then savings and asset values and things like that. I'll go ahead and continue here. And then, this is, like I said, specifically for the contributor portion. This year's incorrect here, but the information for the most part is pretty straightforward, but this is the 26-27 application. So you, by this point, have already received the invite. Obviously, that's why we would be here. So this is just continuing here, what to expect. It's going to be asking financial information from you, a little bit about what happens after you submit the form, saying that if you need to make corrections, you can go back and check on the status after it's submitted. You can submit those corrections, but let's finally start the form here. So this is the information that you would be putting in partially when you make the account, but also once you're starting here, you're going to need to put in your mailing address. This is clearly an autofill here, but you want to make sure that everything is accurate and then go ahead and hit continue. Now, this page is about disclosing your FTI, specifically your federal tax information. Once you consent to giving the Department of Education your IRS and tax info, you can't rescind that consent. So, you have to do this if you do plan to receive federal aid. Otherwise, if you refuse to send your tax information, the student will only be eligible to receive an unsubsidized loan. So, just keep that in mind here. But you'll want to go ahead and just review this, and if that all looks good, you go ahead and approve. And it's good for the whole year. So for every FAFSA application cycle, you will have to um, reconfirm that you consent to do that IRS retrieval. So success in this case, it worked out. We've confirmed your information with the IRS, and they'll go ahead and use the information that you have given them here. And it'll ask you a couple demographic questions. So, are you single, never married, unmarried, and both parents living together? Either or, we'll say that the parents here, that I am the contributor, so I will say that I am married here, and I'll continue. And you'll have to put in where, what state you live. So why don't we just stay in character? We'll say California. And that, when did they become a legal resident of California? Let's say that they were born here. So like maybe January 1st, or yeah, like January of 1980, something like that. So whenever. And go ahead and continue. obviously you would put your date, either if you were born there or the year that you became a citizen of that state or a resident of that state rather. And now you get into the finances section. There's a couple questions I actually want to point out, but we'll get to those when we get to those. For this section, I can't actually choose anything else. It'll tell me that I have to do none of these apply, but you want to look through all of these and then determine if they pertain to your situation. So your tax return will have the information here if you don't know it. If you're receiving any of these, you'll just want to look through them. But, none of these apply to us. So we're just going to go ahead and continue here. And family size. So, is the family size different from the individuals claimed on the 2024 tax return? So maybe someone else was born into the family and now the family size is different. That can sometimes be the case. Maybe we'll just say that yes, the family size, or actually, yeah, I mean, we could just say, curious actually if I do know. I guess there's no other question. If you hit yes, it'll just ask you to put the new family size in here and to not include the student. So we can just say maybe there's like four now. We can go ahead and continue here. And number of the family in college between this time frame. So maybe two of those kids are in college. Obviously, you would put whatever your information is. Um, and now these are tax questions that you will have access to from your return. It is important to note some of these can cause issues if you put the wrong amount that doesn't match with the IRS information. So for IRA rollover, let's just say no, that we had none, and then no IRA pension rollover. For this section here, the student may be receiving, scholarships and grants and things like that, but they may not have reported it as income. This is kind of the most important part here. In most cases, when students receive scholarships and grants, they get a tax information from whatever institution they're receiving aid from. I believe that's a 1098T. And when they file their taxes, they may not have had to report that, those grants as income. So there is a specific, oh, yeah, I have to say right here, 1098T. There is a specific line on their return that they'll use to determine that. But in most cases, it's zero here. Because if you put the wrong information, for example, if the student gets the Pell Grant and you put like that full Pell Grant amount here, there's going to be an issue because they may not have reported that as income on their tax form. So keep that in mind, this one. And then this has the specific line here for the 1040 on the Schedule 1. It's line 8D. If there's foreign earned income exclusion, you definitely do not want to, put what isn't on your taxes specifically here. So we can go ahead and hit zero there. And then child support received. So this is from the previous year, not from 2024. So the rest of the tax information is 2024, but this is from the last calendar year, so it would be 2025. We'll just say zero here. And then total cash savings and checking accounts. Maybe we have like 20,000 saved up, and then some investments, including real estate. Maybe I have some like in stocks. We'll say like 10,000, something like that. And then businesses and farms. So, you know, some of those exclusions we were talking about are listed here. So like commercial fishing businesses are not going to be included this time around, and then businesses with 100 or fewer employees as well. So if you don't, have a family business or anything like that, or no farms or anything, then you wouldn't need to include any of this. So we can just go ahead and continue here. And yeah, so invite the parent spouse. So if your contributor, or here, let me just make sure this is correct here. Yeah, if a contributor, anyone who's required to provide information on the student's FAFSA form, you need to invite your spouse. So if you're married filing jointly, only one person would need to fill that out. But if you have like multiple contributors, if you and your spouse are both contributors, then this is something where you would have them join on. So again, all that you would need is their email. So I wonder if I need to put anyone in. We'll say it's like John at John. dot John. And you can go ahead and just like send them an invite. Okay, it needs to be an actual email, I guess. Does it? Yeah. So all you need is their email to send them. They will remember they will have to create an FSA ID to actually access the form, but you only need the email to submit it to them. So you can just go ahead and continue, and then they'll receive their invite. So once they complete their section, or if you are the only contributor here, if you're married filing jointly and you have all of your information, you will be able to kick the form back to the student and then they should be able to submit it. So you go down here and you just confirm, yes, everything I have submitted is true and real, and I agree. And you go ahead and then sign your portion here. All right. So this specifically shows you the status, like if the invite is sent, if they've completed their portion or anything. But that is the end of the parents section of the FAFSA. So that's kind of all that you can really expect, just a few demographic questions and some tax information as well. And then if you want, you can go back to all the scenarios here. But I think we can go back to the presentation just to kind of wrap it up a little bit. So something that's worth noting, the FAFSA uses your tax information from 2 years ago. Obviously, in most cases, or in some cases, your current financial situation might not be, uh, completely reflective of what was happening in 2024. So if this is the case, later on, you can submit an SAI appeal. It basically uses like your most recent pay stubs and then your 2025 taxes to try and get more aid, essentially. The SAI stands for Student Aid Index. That's the number that gets calculated by FAFSA once the application is completed. So the lower SAI you have, the more aid that you're eligible to receive. So you can appeal your SAI if it's really high. If you're maybe making less now than you were in 2024. So just keep that in mind. That is something that is an option and they're going to be available in early spring. Once we start rolling out, getting all the applications finalized, then those SAI appeals will become available, and those are available on our website. You can kind of read more about how you would submit something like that, or what the application sort of looks like, and the special circumstances page of our financial aid website. So, what's next? In mid-January, you're going to start seeing those 26, 27 preliminary awards. You'll just kind of have an estimated amount on the student center. Again, if you are interested in accessing the students' financial information, they will just have to complete that FERPA form we were talking about. That's the authorization to release financial information form. So they will just have to submit that and put your name on it, and then you can go ahead and give us a call and say, hey, I want to check on my son or daughter's financial aid, and then we can go ahead and give you that information. And the application is open right now. That 2627 FAFSA application since October 1st is now open. Again, that party deadline of March 2nd is super important to know. So if you're having trouble with the FAFSA, please do not hesitate to reach out or ask questions here and then make sure that you get it in before that deadline. There is also the federal aid estimator on studentaid.gov that you can use to try and give you an idea of what your SAI might look like and what aid you might be eligible for as well. So, and then lastly, we're here to help. We have many resources that you and students can use to, get that financial information, just kind of demystify it and ask any questions that you might have. Specifically, we do Zoom advising, which is from 1 to 4, Monday through Friday. And that can be a really nice way to kind of have a one-on-one with a counselor where you can have really specific questions answered there. Otherwise, you could send us an email at finaid@sfsu.edu. And we also have our phone number here as well, that 415-338-7000. So you could take a picture of this. It's also on our outreach hub as well. So that outreach hub list just has all of our, or that link right there has all of our, the ways to contact us. And the future FinAid Fridays are listed on the FinAid Friday section of our website as well. So you can check that out and see, specifically we have like tethered presentations to whatever we think would be good information to have during that period of time. So, and then lastly, our one stop, that's where you would want to come to us in person. So that's at the Student Services Building on campus. You will pretty much be open 9 to 5 every day of the week except Friday, where we don't open until 10. So that is just something to keep in mind. Most of the time, though, there will be people at the one stop on that first floor of the Student Services Building that can answer any questions you may have in person. Yeah, and then if you need to submit any documents in person or anything, you would also go to the one stop as well. Okay, so that is pretty much it here. I appreciate everyone's patience. I hope I didn't put you to sleep, but we're here to answer any questions if you have any.